The boom collapsed under its own weight. High explosives severed the 5-inch suspension cables at calculated points. 310 feet of steel dropped in seconds. Not a mechanical failure, a legal execution. They didn't dismantle the machine, they killed it. A monument to American ambition died in a controlled surrender. The bucket once held 2 Greyhound buses. Now it sits idle. The question isn't how, it's why. Why destroy something that never broke? The answer is in the paperwork and the politics. To understand why it had to die, you have to see what it was. They called it Big Musky. It was built between 1967 and 1969 by Bucyrus-Erie on site in Ohio. 340 rail cars and 260 trucks delivered the components. 200,000 man-hours went into assembly. Welders, riggers, and engineers lived on site for 2 years. $25 million in 1969. Over $200 million today. It weighed 27 million pounds. It stood 222 feet tall, 22 stories. The bucket held 220 cubic yards, 2 Greyhound buses side by side, 12 cars, a marching band. The bucket alone weighed 230 tons empty. When full, over 1 million pounds of earth. It drew 13,800 volts from the grid. Peak power consumption matched the draw of 27,000 homes. Tens of thousands of dollars per hour to run it. Inside, 18 1,000 horsepower motors and 10 625 horsepower DC motors. No fuel tank, no independence. It lived because the grid fed it. It moved on 4 hydraulic shoes, each 65 feet long, at 0.1 miles per hour, which is 1.76 inches per second. It could walk, but only on its own terms. For 22 years, it never stopped. It moved 600 million cubic yards of overburden. That's enough dirt to fill the Empire State Building 443 times. It fed American Electric Power's coal plants without rest. The machine never broke. The world changed the rules beneath it. The machine never broke. But in 1990, Congress signed a death warrant without knowing Big Musky existed. The Clean Air Act amendments did not target draglines. They targeted sulfur. Big Musky's entire purpose was digging high-sulfur coal. The coal that had powered American Electric Power's plants for 2 decades became classified as an environmental hazard. Overnight, perfection became irrelevant. American Electric Power's boardroom faced a choice: continue operating at a loss or shut down. The machine was still perfect. Its welds held, its motors ran, its bucket could still bite. But its purpose became a crime. In 1991, after 22 years of service, they pulled the plug. Not because it failed, because the law rewrote its value. The Clean Air Act did not break the steel, it broke the market. Overnight, a $200 million asset became a $700,000 liability. That is the scrap value, the price of its corpse. The math was brutal. Operating costs had climbed. Electricity rates doubled. Environmental compliance added millions. The coal itself was now worth less than the cost to dig it. For 8 years, it stood on death row, silent, rusting, guarded like a crime scene. The mine gates stayed locked. Security patrols circled the perimeter. They weren't protecting it from thieves. They were protecting the company from liability. A 27 million pound accident waiting to happen. Every day it stood increased the risk. Every storm could topple it. Every trespasser was a lawsuit. The fence cost thousands per month. The guards cost more. The company paid it gladly, cheaper than the alternative. Community campaigns tried to save it. Locals wanted a museum. One proposal was to build a structure around it and encase the machine where it stood. The cost estimate was $12 million for the building alone, plus $2 million annually for maintenance and insurance. The county rejected it. Another group proposed cutting it into sections for transport. Engineers calculated 47 pieces. Each would require specialized heavy haul permits. The state denied the route. Former operators gave speeches. They talked about the hum of the motors, the vibration in your bones, the pride of running the biggest machine on Earth. But the walking paradox made every plan impossible. It could move, but only at 0.1 miles per hour on its own 65-foot shoes. Each step required 14 feet of clearance. Clearing a path across modern roads and power lines would cost tens of millions. Every township would need new infrastructure, and every bridge would need reinforcement. The machine that crossed mountains could not cross a highway. It was designed to walk on stripped earth, not paved America. Ground pressure was low, but the footprint was massive. Ohio's roads were not built for 65-foot shoes. The turning radius required acres of flat ground. Then they severed the 13,800-volt umbilical. Unplugged, it became a dead god. No fuel tank, no battery, no independence. Without that cable, it was a 27-million-pound paperweight. The cable itself weighed tons. The transformers were built into its frame. Reconnecting would require rebuilding the power grid with new substations and new transmission lines. The cost exceeded preservation budgets. The cable was cut into sections and sold for copper. American Electric Power's final answer came down to three things: liability, insurance, and the Surface Mining Control and Reclamation Act. The law required complete removal for land restoration. They could not move it. They could not insure it. They could not keep it. The same regulations that forced reclamation also demanded removal of the equipment. American Electric Power faced millions in fines if they left it standing. The liability risk was too great for any corporation to bear. Insurance companies refused to cover it. The annual premium would exceed the scrap value. The math was simple. The machine was worth less than the risk it created. The board voted. Death was cheaper than life. Operators who had run Big Musky for 20 years read the shutdown notice on the same day as the newspapers. No ceremony. No consultation. The machine they had kept running became a liability line item between quarterly earnings calls. The last operator turned off the lights in 1991. They never turned them on again. Big Musky proved the paradox of durability. It was built so well, it could not adapt. Modern draglines have modular systems. You can swap the bucket, update the motors, and retrofit for new fuel standards. Muskie was a monument. Monuments do not evolve, they get demolished. We do not build machines like Big Musky anymore, not because we cannot, because durability became a design flaw. The modern dragline is modular, replaceable, adaptable. Big Musky was eternal, and that is exactly why it had to die. On May 20th, 1999, Mayor Pollock Steel Corporation arrived with explosives. They did not come to destroy. They came to execute. The crew had done this before. They specialized in industrial death. They treated it like surgery. They walked the site with clipboards and measurements. They marked the cables with paint. They photographed every step. The structural fuse, charges placed to cut suspension cables, not demolish the machine. Once tension released, gravity would do the demolition. The boom weighed hundreds of tons. The cables held it aloft like a steel bridge. Cut the right points, and the machine would fold itself to the ground. No shrapnel, no collateral damage, just controlled collapse. At 2:47 p.m., the charges fired in sequence. The boom shuddered, then bowed. 310 feet of steel met Earth in 14 seconds. The bucket that once held 2 Greyhound buses became a monument to American ambition, dying on American terms, not with malice, but with math.